Okay, let's take a comfortable seat, please, and we'll get started for our practice this morning. I'm glad you're here. So you can rest your hands in your lap as you prefer, whatever is comfortable for you. You're welcome to close your eyes or have your gaze stay open but not focused on any one particular thing. So kind of resting in a little bit of a fuzzy gaze. So your mind can be more inward. As you're arriving for your practice, try to sense the stepping stones on the path of yoga that you have already been walking. Some of you for decades, some of you are more new to the practice of yoga, but your footprints on the path of yoga are joining the footprints of so many others. And recognizing that your practice is not only one of like stretching your body to be more flexible. When you sense your footprints on the stepping stones of the path, or on the dirt path, or the grassy field path, whatever you imagine it to be, try to sense you're walking on the path of yoga, not just on the path of asana and stretching. And with respect for the tradition, which was sustained long enough in the history of humans that you had access to it in the lifetime that you've had. So with respect for that, lengthen up through your spine so you can sit in a way that says, like, thank you, I'm honoring the path and the practice, the tradition of yoga. You're also honoring your own efforts to be here this morning. And then invite your breathing to deepen so it further kind of massages your appreciation or your recognition into your body. And then sensing the tradition which you are joining every time you practice. Now also imagine the circle of other yogis that are practicing with you right now, even though we aren't in a shared physical space. We're sharing this time, these real moments in time. And with appreciation for all of this, please join your hands at your heart. And we'll chant the Gayatri mantra to begin this morning. Let's do that together now. Om Bhargava Svaha Tat Savitor Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayata Om Bhargava Svaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo devasya dhimahi Dhiyo yona prachodayata Om Bharbhuvasuvah Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo devasya dhimahi Dhiyo yona prachodayata Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. You may bow your head to your heart. Release your hands and momentarily can open your eyes. And if you don't now have your Zoom on gallery view, I would ask you to do that just for a moment, even if it means you have to swipe to a page, because I want you to sense that you do have companions here in the practice, that there are people dedicated not only to asana or to their own well-being, but also to community and service and living a life with integrity and heart. And here they're gathered this morning. We also have some of our yoga teacher training students here today, and this is their last day in their formal in-person modules. So this is one of their graduation days, like one of their transition days, moving to the next stepping stone in their path as teachers in training. So thank you to longtime dedicated students, students new to the path of yoga, teachers who are here, and teachers in training who are here this morning. I'm glad we can be together. Okay, so we'll start with some Kriya, which is a form of pranayama, and then we'll do a pranayama to help set the mind and the mood. And these Kriyas are now familiar to many of you, so I'll just give the basic instructions for us to do them together. So sit up straight and tall and bring attention to your solar plexus, to your diaphragm. We're going to do bhastrika, and then we'll do the 8-sip inhale. In each case, there's an inhale suspension at the top. Okay, let's begin. Now inhale through both nostrils up to your suspension. When you're in the suspension, hold the heart of your dedication there. Exhale through both nostrils, releasing any attachment to the outcome of your dedication. You're surrendering the outcome. You get to keep the dedication. Now we take 8 sips to 1 complete inhale with inhale suspension again. The sip is through the straw of the lips, like this. Again, you can sense the brightness of the heart of your dedication. Then exhale out through the nose, releasing your ideas about the outcomes of your dedication. repeating the same thing, bhastrika first. Inhale through the nose, up to suspension. And in the suspension, think of the word Abhyasa, the dedication. Exhale through both nostrils, surrendering your ideas about the outcome of the dedication. And the word for that is Vairagyam. So you have this dedication and also this non-attachment, Abhyasa, Vairagyam. 8 sips for the inhale, please, like a little straw. Exhale completely. Allow yourself to deeply relax. Now we're going to do Kopalabhati with the spinal rotations. So you place the hands up on your shoulders, elbows out to the side. It's a brisk exhale through the nose in both directions, left, right, left, right. Let's begin. Come to center and now inhale completely up to inhale suspension, the dedication. Taking the right hand, close the right nostril, exhale left side. Inhale both nostrils. Suspension. Close the left, exhale right. Release your right hand down. And deeply relax. We have a right to our dedication, as they say in the Gita, a right to our actions. We don't have a right to the outcome of our actions. We have a responsibility for what our actions create, and sometimes we have to make a repair for our actions. They say we have a right to our actions. We have a responsibility to the actions. We have a responsibility to each other. We don't get to have ownership of the outcome of our actions. But if we do cause suffering in another, we have a responsibility for the appropriate repair or retribution of that. Now, one more pranayama. We're going to do Nadi Shodhana, where you inhale for a certain length, you suspend for the same length, you exhale for the same length. The exhale pause is brief. You inhale again, you suspend for the same length, you exhale, same length. The exhale pause is brief. And it goes left, suspend, right, right, suspend, left. And I'm not mirroring you with my illustration because this is actually my left, this is actually my right. So bring the first two fingers into the center of your palm. Let's practice. For those who are new to this, you close the right nostril completely. Leave the left nostril open when you're using it. If you're not new to the practice, try only partially opening the nostril to constrict a little bit the air passageway, which is going to require a deeper draw in through the inhale using your diaphragm, and it will slow down and lengthen your exhale also. If you're newer to the practice, you can disregard what I just said and get comfortable just with Nadi Shodhana. We begin with inhale, left nostril. You suspend for the same length of your inhale. Closing the left, exhale right side. And you exhale for the same length of your inhale and your suspension. But in all cases, you are not trying to make yourself breathless. So practice within your means. Inhale, right nostril. When you complete your next left nostril exhale, and you can deeply relax again, please. And we intend in practicing Nadi Shodhana that we can balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain, the left and right nadis, and then the central channel becomes available. Also a way to integrate what seems like to be opposing ideas, Abhyasa and Vairagyam, a dedicated commitment without attachment to the outcome. Listen for where those two things, when they come together, there's a felt sense of the wisdom in that teaching. We're going to transition to table pose, and I'd like you to have 2 blocks for your table pose. Just have to untangle my cord from the kittens here. So please come over to your table pose, hands and knees pose. I'll switch my camera. Okay, the blocks can go under your hands to start. So your hands are going to be like you'll have extra long arms. That's mine, not for you. I like to tell the kittens that I don't drink from their water bowl, therefore they don't have to drink from my water glass. Okay, so with your hands on the 2 blocks, let's reach into cat pose first. Press down through both arms, broaden the back of your body. Notice the advantage of having your hands elevated. What parts of your back might you have more access to? And then exhale, start from your tailbone and bring your spine through to cow pose. Lift your collarbones, widen your shoulders, open your throat. And then inhale to cat, please. Exhale, using your cat pose spine, go halfway back to child's pose. Keep your hands on your blocks. Inhale, roll up to cat. Exhale, cow pose. Inhale to cat. Breathe through the nose. Exhale, halfway to child's pose. Breathe out through your nose for this one. Now we're going to inhale, roll forward to cat pose. Breathe through the nose. And exhale, blow out like a straw through the mouth, cow pose. Inhale to cat. Blowing out, child's pose. Inhale, cat. Exhale, cow. Inhale, table pose. Okay, now take your right block and step it forward and step your left knee forward. So you just did one part of a crawl. This is called a cross crawl. And let's repeat again. Inhale to cat pose. Without going side to side with your spine, exhale halfway back to child's pose. Inhale, roll forward to cat. Exhale, cow pose. Inhale to cat. And halfway back to child's pose. Last time, inhale to cat. Cow pose. Cat. And without bending your elbows or going sideways with your hips, go back towards your child's pose. Notice how the lumbar spine feels about asymmetry. And then roll yourself up to table and switch that your right hand comes back. Take the left hand forward. Step your right knee forward. And then repeat. Please inhale to cat pose first. Exhale halfway back to child's pose, straight elbows and without the hips wandering sideways. Inhale, roll forward, cat pose. Cow pose. Inhale, cat. Halfway back to child's pose. Inhale to cat. And last one, exhale to cow pose. Now step your right foot forward, right hand forward to meet your left. Make the knees symmetrical. Curl your toes under and raise up to downward facing dog pose with your hands on the blocks. And in your downward dog pose, listen for the way the breath now moves through a symmetrical experience in the pose. I'm going to ask you to keep your arms steady and strong. And if your dog pose is too long, you'll find that your block starts sliding. So instead of the block sliding, shorten your dog pose a little bit. And as you exhale, touch your knees almost all the way down to child's pose. And then you change your mind and you go back up on the inhale to dog pose. And then exhale, touch your knees almost all the way down to child's pose. Keep the arms steady. Inhale, raise it back up to dog pose. And please do that one more time. So as you exhale, the knees go almost all the way down. Keep your knees symmetrical. And as you inhale, go up to downward dog pose. And then walk your feet forward, up between your hands. Come into Uttanasana, the standing forward bend. And consider this to be a pose more like Vairagyam, the pose of surrender. Now keep the legs steady. So there is one way you express your dedication is the muscle tone, the alignment, the presence of your feet, shins, knees, thighs, and hips. Now please rise up on your fingertips with your hands on your blocks. Bend your knees. You're going to sit into the base of the pose that we call chair pose. And keeping your chair pose steady, put your weight back into your heels and your toes, not just pitched into your toes. And inhale up, chair pose. Exhale, sit more deeply in your chair pose. Inhale up a few degrees in your chair pose. Exhale, root down in your chair pose. Again, inhale to go up slightly in your chair pose. Exhale, bend your knees more deeply, sit your hips back. This time go all the way up. Inhale to rise, upward hands pose. And exhale, press your arms wide. Come into Anjali Mudra. Close your eyes and imagine the balancing point between Abhyasa and Vairagyam. You have a dedication and it's going to require, sometimes it's going to require fortitude. The word for that, we might call it steadiness, consistency, fortitude, Abhyasa. You also have a surrender. You can't be attached to the outcome of the efforts. Hi, you guys. So the actions, just like this, I put the kittens in their basket, but I don't have a right to the outcome. That action, they may not stay there. Okay, let's come to Surya Namaskar. We're going to do the poses that are asymmetrical, but we're going to add a little bit more asymmetry to some of them. Okay, so join your hands together at your heart. Now using your Ujjayi breath, we'll take the hands down, palms forward, raise up. A chair pose. Inhale, rise up, upward hands. Uttanasana. Inhale, glide forward. Left toes back. Rise up with your in-breath. So this is asymmetrical as it is. Now we're going to exhale, bow forward, reach your right arm back, left arm forward. Inhale, rise up. So your right arm is going to meet your left arm. Exhale, glide forward. Keep your left leg steady. Reach your right arm back. Gaze back at your left toes. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, glide forward, right arm back. Once more, inhale to rise up. And last one, bow forward, sweep the arms wide, touch the two blocks. Inhale, left foot forward, heart forward. And then exhale, take your right toes back, so that's your basic lunge. Inhale, rise up, both arms together on the first go. And then exhale, glide forward, sweep your left arm back, gaze towards your right toes. Inhale, glide up. As you exhale and move through the poses, listen for the equal balance of dedication and also non-attachment, which doesn't mean apathy. Non-attachment is not a synonym for resignation or apathy. Abhyasa means you put in your full commitment. Arms wide. And Vairagyam means you aren't attached to the outcomes, but you're going to be there when the outcomes are happening. You're not going to disappear. Step backwards, downward dog pose. And then inhale forward to plank pose. Step over one foot, come into seal pose. Okay, cobra pose, Bhujangasana. And pause and let cobra pose be a sustained pose. Press down into both hands on your blocks. Roll your shoulders back so your cobra is a little bit higher. Anchor down through your tailbone and your thighs and the tops of your feet and the tops of your knees. With sustained effort, now inhale, rise slowly up to seal pose, look up. And exhale, plank pose. Inhale, downward facing dog pose. So almost in every yoga pose, you actually have this process of your dedication to the pose, then the pose transitions and you have to surrender that pose, arriving in the next pose. And each pose, echoes of the pose, go with you to the next pose and to the next one. So take a deep breath in. And then exhale, step your right foot forward between your hands. Inhale, rise up. So your dog pose came with you here. These arm positions right here are your downward dog pose arms. Right? And the chest position is similar to your cobra pose. So elements of those actions arrive here with you. Now, as you exhale, take your right arm back, left arm forward, and gaze back at your left toes. And remember your cat pose spine, see if you can find that. Don't rest on your right thigh, please. Keep the right hip and hamstring strong. Roll your spine up like cat pose into upward hands pose, crescent lunge. And then arms wide, come forward and down. Now let's touch both blocks here with your fingertips. Straighten your right leg. Pivot the left heel. So you've got a long stride for Parsvottanasana. Walk your right hand back and your left hand forward. And come down over your right leg. So with the left arm forward, you have echoes of downward facing dog pose in the left arm. The right arm back, you have echoes of a pose called Chaturanga Dandasana. The spine is a little bit more like cat pose, less like cow pose right now. So your previous dedications do show up here in this pose, and yet you're not right now in the cat pose. You're not right now in the actual downward dog pose. Those moments have passed, and this is the moment that you're in. Pick up your left heel, pivot your body weight forward, step your right block forward, left block back, and reach backwards to downward dog pose, please. And inhale, bring your left foot up between your hands, set up your right toes and your left heel for full support. Inhale, rise up into your crescent lunge. And then exhale, split the arms, so your left arm goes back, good. Gaze towards your right toes. And picture your cat pose spine. So in no way are we resting on the left thigh right.
Sarahjoy, your screen froze.
We may just have to rejoin.
I think you're up, Andrew. Take over the flow.
I see, did Sarahjoy just stop?
Yeah, both of her computers just left.
Okay, she should be right back.
Yeah.
I have left arm forward, right arm back, if anyone wants to join me in it. Just kidding, switch that.
Andrew, was this her plan? Was this her devious plan to get one of us to have to teach?
Yeah, it's a part of it. So if you're feeling compelled, you can feel free to chime in.
So you all can do handstands. I'm just going to sit here and be a moral support.
Let's see. Why don't we move through the Cobra sequence again? So we'll come.
Okay.
Both fingertips to the blocks, step back to plank position.
Okay.
Roll to the tops of the feet, hips roll down, high seal position, excuse me, was what I meant. Slightly gazing up. And then lower your hips, your knees, and while keeping your gaze forward to keep your chest lifted. Root down again through your hips, knees, tops of the feet, as your shoulders slightly roll back. And continue to access your dedication while surrendering the outcome of which teacher might be here at any moment. Press into the blocks to lift back up into seal pose. Heart and chest lift forward. Tuck your toes, press back into plank pose. And step both feet forward, just in between the blocks. Hips come down. Utkatasana with the hips, arms rise up. And on your inhale, you'll rise up a couple inches. Exhale, slightly lower. Inhale to rise. And exhale to deepen. One more time, inhale, rise. And exhale as you deepen, arms go wide, forward and down, fingertips to your blocks. And see.
Thank you, Derek.
You're doing great, Derek. Keep going.
Got it. All right. Access a little surrender as you relax your shoulders and chest down towards your knees. Your head can hang. Notice as you inhale where the breath accesses in the upper body. And even that your inhale is a little bit more accessible as gravity is helping in this regard. Or your exhale is more accessible, excuse me. On your next exhale, lift your heart and chest, halfway lift. Inhale to step your left foot back. High crescent lunge, arms come up to reach back. Spin your back heel down as you exhale, arms towards the horizon, warrior two. Inhale, right arm to your right thigh, left arm to reach overhead. Inhale to rise back to the horizon. Slightly deepen your stance. And exhale, reverse your warrior, left hand to left thigh, right arm reaches up overhead. We'll repeat this sequence 2 more times. Inhale to center. Exhale, right arm to right thigh. Root in through your heels and lengthen through your overarm. Inhale to center. Exhale to reverse. Inhale. Last time. Might notice the fires of the tapas of your determination. It might find itself in a little bit of shaking, maybe some heat building in your legs and back. Now as you inhale to center, cartwheel your hands down to meet your blocks. Step both feet together. Exhale to forward fold.
Great, thank you, Derek. Let's have Kathy DeSmet can teach the other side of Warrior Two, and then I'll come back in for teaching. Kathy DeSmet is being asked to be spontaneous right now, you guys.
Thank you for the opportunity, Sarahjoy.
You're welcome.
So standing at the front of your mat, hands to your heart. Take a grounding breath in and sense your dedication to the practice and your ability to surrender to the outcomes. Your next inhale, sweep your arms wide overhead. Siddhasana, exhale, Uttanasana. Hands to your blocks or the floor. As you inhale, step your right foot back, turn your back heel down, and rise up to Warrior One. Exhale, turn and open to Warrior Two, and again, sense through the stability of your legs, grounding of your feet, into your dedication, to your practice, to the path of yoga. Full deep breath in, and as you exhale, come forward to elbow to knee, side angle pose, surrender. Inhale to rise to Warrior Two and find your dedication. Exhale, surrender as you rise to Rising Warrior. Inhale, Warrior Two and your dedication. Exhale, side angle, surrender. Last time, inhale, Warrior Two. Exhale to rise and surrender. And then windmill your arms down to the blocks. Step forward to Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway, rise, fingertips, Ardha Uttanasana, and exhale, surrender, Uttanasana. On your inhale, sweep your arms wide and rise to Urdhva Hastasana. Gather the dedication, gather the surrender, and bring it to your heart in Anjali Mudra.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Derek. Okay, everyone. So now I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of a heating pose, and we'll be coming down to the floor for a different kind of practice. So bend both knees, like you're going to sit into chair pose. Cross your right ankle over your left knee. This is actually called figure four pose, and we're going to do it with a chair pose base. Reach your arms forward. And as you're taking your seat in this chair pose, you can only sit as deeply as your left hip will sustain. So tone the left outer hip, left outer hamstring, left outer heel. Keep your left knee in line from your hip to your toes. You can press the right knee open and down towards the floor. If you just wanted the hip stretch but not the heat, you could do this in an actual chair instead of simulating a chair for your hips. Now, as you root down into your left hip and heel, rise up. So your figure four will start looking like the number 4. Press your right knee open, root your tailbone down, and then release your right foot to the floor, release both arms. Bend your knees. You can press the femurs down, yep, and then cross your left ankle onto your right knee. As you sit down into your chair pose, into this version of chair pose, if you're in the teacher training, I want you to remember our discussion from yesterday about vrata, V-R-A-T-A, how some of the, the ascetics in India, they make a certain commitment. I'm going to remind you guys, but I won't talk more about it at the moment. So for everyone, tone the right outer hip, right outer hamstring. Keep your right knee lined up with your third toe. And keep your mind cool with equanimity, even though the body is heating a little bit. And sometimes that's the nature of dedication. It requires fortitude and fire. Now root down into your right leg and open the left knee like the number 4. Keep the tailbone anchored, and then step down with your left foot and your right foot. Release. And then imagine yourself like a mountain, where the base of the mountain allows all of the the travelers, all of the creatures. And the top of the mountain allows all of the air passage overhead. Birds, man-made airplanes. So mountains express this kind of natural abhyasa. They are simply dedicated and there. They also practice a natural kind of vairagyam. They aren't attached. Okay, now we're going to take a couple of blankets to sit on. I want to introduce you to a practice sequence in Siddhasana, and then there'll be a pranayama that comes from this sequence. So if you'll take a seat on 2 blankets to start, that's going to be a little higher seat than most of you might normally use. So 2 blankets to begin, and you have your blocks close by. When you take this seat, place the soles of your feet together, first in Baddha Konasana like this. And then with the soles of the feet together, come forward. You can set up your yoga blocks to support your elbows, your forearms, perhaps to support your head. So like I made a little desk of my blocks here, and the stacking of my arms is a comfortable height for my head to rest. So in this Baddha Konasana, you have your hips higher because the 2 blankets are under, and this height here means your feet are automatically lower than they would be normally. Some of you are going to find that you bend forward more easily because of that. So sometimes dedication or abhyasa is doing the things you need to do to keep yourself consistently showing up for your practice, including if you have to add yoga props to make poses more doable. Now please walk your hands down towards the floor, rise up to sit, and tuck your left toes under like a pose we call Siddhasana. That means that you have the left toes in front of the pelvis, left knee out to the side. And cross your right ankle over your left knee. And depending on where your knee ends up, you can place a block like this. Okay, so this position is like your figure 4 pose. I'd like you to take your right hand, the curve of the hand right here, your thumb and your index finger, and press into the top of the femur, right where the femur ends and the pelvis begins. There's a little valley between those 2 structures. Press straight down there. Yeah, and then encourage your inner body to lift up out of your right hip. And then come forward. Yeah. And this time you might use 1 block if you've already got, if you only have 2 blocks and the other one's occupied, you can use 1 block to set up this little table or bench you can make for your head to rest. And there's different ways to organize your arms, your block, and so on. This is a more inward pose. We would call it more of a Chandra pose, less of a Surya pose, more like the moon, less like the sun. It still contains both elements of Abhyasa and Vairagyam. So your dedication is even in the inner reflective poses. And please walk your hands back towards your lap, rise up to sitting, and step your right foot down so it's in front of your left foot. So you can line it up with your left ankle. Okay, raise your left arm up, please. Take a block with you in your right hand and twist to your right. So if you can hook your left elbow over your right thigh comfortably, then do that. If it's not comfortable, hook where you can. Use your right hand behind you to help the spine stay upright. The purpose of the block behind you is because when you're sitting on two blankets, you're farther up from the floor. So the block means you don't have to lean backwards to get your right fingers to the floor. So this pose has a bit of the Surya and the Chandra combined. Surya means the active pose, the more a little bit complex, needing some musculoskeletal integrity from you. So like keeping the spine upright, keeping the heart open. And Chandra is more reflective, a little bit less of an active, more of an inward. Notice the breath happening in the belly. And then exhale and come around to face forward, please. Okay, now I want to give you one more pose in the sequence to the right, then we'll repeat the sequence on the other side. So for this, I'd like you to sit on the left edge of your blanket. So you've got more blanket here and you're on the edge over here. Take your right leg out to the side, and I'd like you to have it so that your right hamstring is supported by this blanket, and if possible, the back of your knee is supported right here. So you're sitting up higher, but you're not hyperextending the back of your right knee. Yeah, and the left knee can be on the floor down here. So notice this downward slope for the left thigh. The tailbone goes down, and you can take the right hand again, this part right here, and press down at the top of the thigh. Good, and then begin to side bend out over your right leg. Notice when the left thigh is down, what starts to happen in the left lower back, left inner hip, left inner belly. You may reach the right hand out towards your right foot. Rotate your chest and heart to your left. And like Kathy and Derek were teaching in the warrior sequence, raise your left arm now past your left ear. So I'd like it to really be committed in every direction that the pose goes. So out through your left knee into your left shin, down into the floor. Outward through your right leg into your heel. Upwards through your left arm into your fingers. Out through your right arm into your fingers. And the twist of the heart in this pose means that you're trying to turn your chest and heart, even your gaze, like upwards towards the sky. But keep your right hip grounding down, rooting towards the earth. Now when you exhale, open your left arm only, reach it back and gaze down past your right arm. And then roll yourself up to sitting. And let's pause here between the two sides of the sequence and rest a moment. So come into a seat you could have for a little bit of meditation. And just feel what is happening. It's probably a zigzag of some kind, probably asymmetrical. It's probably settling out a bit now. So those outcomes, you're in surrender mode right now. You had the actions, you're watching the outcomes, witnessing, being present for. Good. Okay, now let's put the right foot on the inside. And so your right knee is going to go down towards the floor, or you have a support for it. Cross your left ankle over your right knee. This is sometimes called the fire log pose. And as needed, you can put some support under your left shin. And then take the round part of your left hand, this part here, and place it at the very top of your left thigh and press down. Please keep your right ankle strong. So the right ankle will not be sickled. It's not curving into that, oops, I sprained my ankle when hiking position. So press down firmly. And rise up through the inner body as you then come forward. And maybe you have only one block available to make your little desk for your elbows to support your head. Or you can put the two palms if you have that kind of flexibility. This pose is by its nature more inward, more Chandra. You can keep the dedication parts that you need, like where your attention is, the quality and smoothness of the breath. Also allow for the inward parts, the feeling tone of surrender or even a willingness to find out what the outcomes are. And walk your hands down to the block and rise up to sitting. And then place your left foot on the floor in front of your right ankle and in front of your kitten. Okay, raise your right arm up. You're going to take a block with you for your left hand. So cross your right elbow over your left knee. Take the left hand behind you on the floor. Raise up through your heart as you twist to your left. And notice the balance between Surya, the active parts of the pose, and Chandra, the reflective parts. For most of us, some active is required to keep the spine upright. And many people in twists can benefit from remembering the Chandra, the reflectivity in the belly. So like allow the belly less and less tension, more and more access to the breath. And then exhale and come around to face forward. And scoot to the right side of your blanket. Okay, so you've got the right knee down on the floor like this. Your hips are elevated. Take the left leg out so that your left knee is supported by the blanket. Do not put your left shin on the kitten. Okay, so when you stretch out like this, I do want your hips to feel supported. So the left hip is entirely on the blanket. Your right hip's on the blanket, just that your right thigh and your right knee are going down towards the floor. Okay. Press the top of the left thigh down. You can use your hand for that. And begin to side bend to your left. Yeah, and walk your left hand out towards your left foot. And notice what has to happen through the right lower back, right outer hip, the inner belly and the inner hip into your right thigh, into your right knee. And for those who would like, you can sweep your right arm up past your ear. So having your hips elevated in this position, there's a change of dynamic in your right hip and right lower back. Where are you going? I don't think you're going to get him. The breath stays smooth and calm and curious. Reach in all 5 directions of the pose, that is, each of your limbs and the rotation of your heart towards the sky. And then rise up. And again, come to your meditation seat. And if you tend to sit in meditation a little bit closer to the floor than these 2 blankets are, of course, change your position. What I do here is I slide myself forward. So really, the blankets are right behind my sacrum and my tailbone isn't actually touching the floor. And so there's support for my meditation seat, but really what's touching are the outer thighs, outer ankles, the tops of my feet. You decide for yourself, of course. You can close your eyes and come to notice what is the echo effect of the pose happening right now. Listen for how the zigzag or the internal atmosphere is kind of reconciling itself towards homeostasis, towards health. Hi, honey. Hi. Go down. Yeah. Now there's a pranayama practice that some of you have learned in the last week and some have not yet. And I'd like us to do this pranayama now so you'll know it. We'll go to Shavasana, come back up and we'll repeat the pranayama to feel what it's like after Shavasana, because it can lead to a meditative state. So the pranayama is going to use sound. Hari Aum. And during the exhale, when you're chanting, Hari Aum, there are 4 parts of the exhale. The Hari, H-A-R-I, and the letter A, the first letter in the word Om. That's the first 25% of your exhale. The letter U, the second letter in the word Om, is the next 25% of the exhale. The letter M, the lips go in between the teeth. Means that the mouth opens more on the inside. There's more vibration in the upper palate. That's the next 25% of your exhale. And then it goes to silence. The last 25% of the exhale is still happening and you're in the silence. Then there's an exhale pause. So place the hands at the heart like this and try this with me about 3 times. So I'll sing with you. It'll be, you can watch my hands for this particular one, like this. Hari Aum. So there, my exhale went on in silence. And then I was just resting in the exhale pause without inhaling. There's a tone that comes at the end of the exhale, and I'm just resting in that. And then the next inhale will come without gasping. Okay, so hands together at the heart, please. Let's try it 3 times. Inhale. Hari Aum. Inhale. Hari Aum. Inhale. Hari Aum. Inhale. Release your hands to your lap. Notice the effect. If it's new to you, acknowledge that you're a beginner in the practice. You're going to be finding your way. And please take your 2 blankets as a bolster for your knees and come to Shavasana. I'd like to return to that pranayama for meditation at the end of class. If you have a practice of Shavasana that includes a sandbag, an eye pillow, a weighted blanket, a hot water bottle, a dog, a kitten, please make yourself comfortable. At the same time, it's helpful to have your simple Shavasanas sometimes too, kind of an ascetic version of Shavasana. So you moved a lot of energy through the body. And now we want to rest. And this is where you practice the most Vairagyam, the surrender. The Abhyasa, or the dedication in this pose, is your commitment to the surrender. Recognizing you're not doing anything right now. The actions in you are occurring on your behalf. You are the recipient right now. Allow the medicine of your practice to be magical. Release all of the actions, all of the poses, all of your efforts. Relax the narrative you were telling yourself about yourself. Allow for deeper and deeper release. Let your body get very heavy, trusting in the earth to hold you. So more and more deeply relax your hips, your legs, heels and toes, your torso, shoulders, arms and hands. The weight of your head. All of the organs of vitality, invite them to rest. And all five senses. We're going to rest a couple minutes more. Now bringing some awareness in. Just very lightly deepen your breath, become aware of the breath. And gently move your fingers and your toes. Please make a transition from your Shavasana back to your seat for meditation. And we'll use the mantra practice as our pranayama to help us with the meditation. There is a scientific process for this pranayama. I'm going to not talk about it much. I want you to just have the direct experience. So please sit upright. And join your hands together at your heart. So the side of the thumb here is going to touch the sternum. You'll feel the vibration of the chant. You'll also feel the vibration leave as it goes more vibration into the upper palate. So a reminder that the last portion of your exhale is in silence and it's going up. Energetically, we're going heart, throat, pineal gland, third eye, crown of the skull, and then exhale, pause. Let's breathe in. Hari Aum. Breathe in. Hari Aum. Breathe in. Hari Aum. Breathe in and release into a few minutes of meditation. Keeping the mind quiet, you listen for the silence, like the mountaintop. While staying grounded, like the base of the mountain. Please bring your hands together at your heart. And try to sense again the path that you're on and the people with whom you've been practicing today. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. Thank you also to Derek and Kathy for stepping in to teach, and Andrew for holding the class. I gave him the co-host. So if I dropped off again, you wouldn't be losing each other. Thank you. I will be unpacking this pranayama for you, this last pranayama, in the next few days and a couple of weeks, so you can learn more about it.